Lesson 9. Great Britons. 1. Charles Dickens. 2. Mr. Priestley. In 1833 Dickens had a number of papers published under the title Sketches by Boz, but it was in 1836 that he rose to fame as suddenly and as unmistakably as Scott had done. The circumstances were rather strange. A firm of publishers, Chapman and Hall, had a number of pictures by a humorous artist, Seymour, and they wanted to get some short articles to illustrate them so that pictures and articles could appear together in a magazine in fortnightly parts. Someone suggested that the young newspaper reporter, Charles Dickens, might do the job. It was a job after his own heart. He accepted the offer, but asked for a rather freer hand in the writing than had been originally planned. He was allowed to have his way, and so Pickwick Papers came into being. Hob, what is Pickwick Papers about? Should I like it? Mr. Priestley, you ought to get the book. I think you would like it. It is about Mr. Pickwick and his three friends, Mr. Tupman, Mr. Snodgrass, and Mr. Winkle. Mr. Pickwick is a stout, good-natured, cheerful, very simple-hearted old gentleman. He is the general chairman of the Pickwick Club, and he and his three friends decide to travel about England and send to the Pickwick Club in London an account of their journeys and their observations on the character and manners of the people they meet on these journeys. The humor of the book consists chiefly in the absurd situations that Mr. Pickwick and his friends get themselves into, deceived by smooth-tongued rogues, put into a debtor's prison, involved in an action for breach of promise, and yet, though we laugh at Mr. Pickwick, we don't think any the worse of him for being a figure of fun. In fact, we love him all the more. That's what we mean by humor, and next to Shakespeare's Falstaff, Mr. Pickwick is perhaps the greatest comic figure in English literature. But to continue the story of Dickens, for the first fortnightly part of Pickwick Papers the publishers printed 400 copies, but such was its popularity that for part 15 more than 40,000 copies had to be printed. At once Dickens had become the most popular living novelist. Scott died in 1832, Dickens's first book appeared in 1833, and he held that position until his death. The rest can be told in a few words. It is a story of work, and work without rest. He poured out novel after novel, Oliver Twist, Nicholas Nickleby, The Old Curiosity Shop, A Christmas Carol, David Copperfield, perhaps the greatest work of all, A Tale of Two Cities. These are but a few of the more famous. At the same time he was editing newspapers and magazines, visiting America, Italy, Switzerland, Paris, giving readings from his books to huge crowds of people and writing constantly. It was the excitement of these readings, this excitement and the applause of his listeners was what he loved, and the strain of his continual work that brought about his sudden death in 1870. He had asked that his burial should be quite simple, but the whole nation wanted to give him the highest honor they could, and so he lies buried in Westminster Abbey, but as he wished it, with nothing on the stone except his name, Charles Dickens. Aleph. Thank you, Mr. Priestley. I've enjoyed your story of his life, but why is Dickens great? I mean, what is there as his books that has made him read by all, by learned and simple, rich and poor alike? But that seems to be the case. Mr. Priestley, you are quite right. It is the case. I don't think there is any other novelist in England who has such a hold on all classes of people. He had it in his own day, he has it in ours too. David Copperfield is still a bestseller, and I believe he will keep that popularity as long as English is read. I think the chief cause is the great-heartedness of the man himself. He, like Abou Benadhem, was one who loved his fellow men, and it, 1. In the poem Abou Benadhem, by Leigh Hunt, it appears on page 68 of Brighter English, published by Longmans, Green and Company. Leigh Hunt, 1784-1859, was an essayist and poet, and it was not only the good ones who came in for his love, his kindly, humorous, understanding eye looked with a wide tolerance on good and bad alike. He was, too, so full of life himself. Leigh Hunt said of Dickens's face, "It has the life and soul of 50 human beings," and his face was a true picture of his mind. It was this tremendous vitality of Dickens that makes all his characters so memorable. He is often blamed for making his characters unreal, strange, grotesque creatures that never could have existed. There may be something in this, but though they may not be, as the critics say, true to life, they certainly spring to life in his pages. They are more real to us than the characters of any other novelist, English or foreign, and they were real enough to Dickens. His biographer, Forster, writes, "I remember he said to me that during the composition of his stories he could never quite get rid of the characters about whom he happened to be writing, that while the Old Curiosity Shop was being written, Little Nell followed him about everywhere. While he was writing Oliver Twist, Fagin would never let him rest, that at midnight and in the morning Tiny Tim and little Bob Cratchit were ever pulling his coat as if impatient for him to get back to his desk and continue with the story of their lives." He said that when the children of his brain had once been sent into the world, free and clear of 1. and A Christmas Carol, him, they would sometimes turn up in the most unexpected manner to look their father in the face. Sometimes he would pull my arm as we were walking together and whisper, "Let us avoid Mr. Pumblechook who is crossing the street to meet us," or "Mr. Micawber is coming, let us turn down here to get out of his way." He always seemed to enjoy the fun of his humorous characters and had unending laughter over Mr. Pickwick's amusing misadventures, and so we believe in his characters because he believed in them himself. He shows us a great, moving picture of everyday life and everyday people. We must admire, too, the noble feeling that filled Dickens in the writing of many of his novels, the desire to show up some wrong and put it right. He had suffered so bitterly himself as a child and had seen so much evil that he burned with the longing to fight it to the utmost. So in Oliver Twist he attacks the cruel workhouse treatment of children, in Nicholas Nickleby the evils of badly run schools, in Little Dorrit the tragedy of the debtor's prison, in Bleak House the slowness of the law. No man has done more to get these wrongs righted than has Dickens. In some ways, of course, he belonged to his age and had its weaknesses. Dickens himself and his readers cried together over the long drawn-out deaths of Little Nell and Paul Dombey, 1, in Great Expectations. Most of us now feel that the sentiment, and especially the pathos, is overdrawn, and wish Dickens had not let himself go so much, just as we wish sometimes that his humor was not quite so rough and forcible, or that his efforts at fine writing instead of clear, simple writing were not so frequent. But when all this is said, there still remains the great writer and great man, the man who knew London as few men have known it and who loved its common people humorously and understandingly, and that is why the common people have taken him to their heart. Idiomatic English, 2. Heart. In the passage on pages 71 to 76 you have the sentences, "It was a job after his own heart," equals of the kind he very much liked. Mr. Pickwick is a simple-hearted old gentleman. The chief cause of his popularity is the great-heartedness of the man himself, and that is why the common people have taken him to their heart. Here are some further common idiomatic uses of heart. He is not a man who wears his heart on his sleeve, equals shows his feelings openly. He may seem cold but his heart is in the right place, equals he has true, kind feelings. He has a heart of gold. When I heard that strange cry in the darkness my heart went into my mouth, equals I was afraid. When I think of my examination tomorrow my heart goes into my boots, equals I feel in despair. I didn't win the prize but I am not downhearted, equals sad, discouraged. I learned that piece of poetry by heart, equals by memory. Prepositions, 4. Down. Down expresses movement from a higher to a lower position. For example, they walked down a hill. The sun goes down in the west. Sit down. There is plenty of room for everyone. There are some idiomatic usages of down as an adverb. For example, the arrangement for sending letters abroad seems to have broken down. Write these notes down in your notebook. He has come down in the world, equals become poorer or less important. The wind has died down, equals become less strong. The sleeve of my coat is too short. I will ask the tailor to let it down an inch. He looked very down in the mouth, equals unhappy, out of spirits. Perhaps he was down on his luck, equals its misfortune. Except. For. Accepting means not including, apart from. For example, we have lessons every day. Except. Accepting. Saturday and Sunday. This essay is good except for the careless mistake. Except that is used to introduce a clause. For example, he is a good student except that he is occasionally careless. For has a great many meanings. 1. Space of time or distance. For example, I am staying here for a week. The forest goes on for 20 miles. 2. Purpose, aim, intention. For example, we come here for English lessons. He uses an electric razor for shaving. 3. Amount. For example, the house was sold for £5,000 British. 4. Direction. For example, which is the train for Brighton? 5. Point of time. For example, the meeting is arranged for 7 o'clock. 6. Cause. For example, I couldn't see anything for smoke. He gained a medal for bravery for saving a boy's life. 7. Exchange. For example, I'll give you my watch for your camera. He paid £50 British for that picture. 8. Advantage, or disadvantage. For example, this holiday has been good for you. Too much work is bad for you. Note. For is used when the duration of time is measured. Since is used when the starting point is given. See since. Page 144. In negative sentences, for is used for a period of time, before for a point of time. For example, he will not be here for an hour yet. He will not be here before 7 o'clock. From. The principal meanings of from are: 1. A motion away, departure, removal. For example, he rose from his chair. She came from Scotland last week. 2. A starting point, place of origin. For example, he read from page 16 to page 21. The wool came from Australia. The roses are from Richard. 3. Cause. For example, she is suffering from a bad headache. 4. Separation. For example, he is far away from home and wife and children. Exercises. 1. Word study. Use the following: publish, also publisher, publication, circumstances, magazine, accept. Compare with accept. What is the opposite of accept? Plan. Originally. Stout. What is the opposite? Simple-hearted, absurd, smooth-spoken. Humor, also humorous, good-humored. To be in a bad humor. Stride. Noun and verb. What is the past tense of this verb? Poor, not poor. Edit. Use also editor, editorial, edition, applause, burial, also bury. Compare bury. Tolerance. Use also tolerate, toleration, intolerant. Vitality, memorable. Use also memory, memorial, remember, remembrance. Grotesque. Biographer. Use also biography. What is an autobiography? Composition. Use also compose, composer. Avoid misadventures. Use also adventure, adventurous. Sentiment, also sentimental. Pathos, and pathetic. 2. Note the following rather idiomatic expressions. Express the meaning of each sentence in a different way without using the words in italics. 1. He rose to fame as suddenly and unmistakably as Scott had done. 2. He asked for a rather freer hand in the writing. 3. He was allowed to have his way and so Pickwick Papers came into being. 4. The humor consists chiefly in the absurd situations that Mr. Pickwick and his friends get themselves into. 5. They are deceived by smooth-spoken rogues. 6. We don't think any the worse of him for being a figure of fun. 7. Such was its popularity that for Part 15 more than 40,000 copies had to be printed. 8. At once Dickens had become the most popular living novelist. 9. He poured out novel after novel. 10. The strain of his continual work brought about his sudden death in 1870. 11. No other novelist in England has such a hold on all classes of people. 12. It was not only the good ones who came in for his love. 13. They were impatient for him to get back to his desk. 14. His characters would sometimes turn up in the most unexpected manner. 15. Let us turn down here and get out of his way. 16. We believe in his characters. 17. He wrote his novels to show up a wrong and put it right. 18. He burned with desire to fight evil to the utmost. 19. No man has done more than Dickens to get these wrongs righted. 20. Dickens and his readers cried together over the long drawn-out death of Little Nell. 21. The pathos is overdrawn. 22. We wish Dickens had not let himself go so much. Comprehension exercises. 3. From this lesson answer the following. 1. What other English novelist besides Dickens rose suddenly to fame? 2. What work was Dickens doing when he was asked to write Pickwick Papers? 3. What were the members of the Pickwick Club going to write about? 4. What misadventures does Mr. Pickwick meet with? 5. What proof is there that Pickwick Papers grew in popularity as it appeared? 6. What work, other than writing novels, occupied Dickens after 1833? 7. Why was Dickens buried in Westminster Abbey? 8. What is a bestseller? 9. Give 3 reasons why Dickens has such a hold on all classes of people. 10. How could you show that Dickens's characters were real people to him? 11. What evils did he attack in his novels? 4. Write a summary of the passage on page 73 from I think the chief cause, to the end of page 76. Your summary should not extend to more than 200 words. 5. Make the following groups of words into sentences. Add as many more words as you wish. You can use the words in any order you please. 1. Publishers, pictures, humorous, articles, magazine. 2. Mr. Pickwick, chairman, travel, account, observations, character, journeys. 3. Dickens, asked, burial, simple, nation, honor, Westminster. 4. Dickens, face, life, 50, picture, mind. 5. During, composition, rid, characters, writing. 6. Children, brain, scent, world, clear, turn up, unexpected, look, face. 7. Suffered, child, evil, desire, fight, utmost. 8. Feel, pathos, overdrawn, humor, rough, fine writing. 6. Use each of the following idioms in a sentence. His heart is in the right place. My heart went into my mouth. In one's heart of hearts, heart and soul. Take to heart, to be disheartened. Heart to heart, to set one's heart on, by heart. Downhearted. 7. Composition exercises. A. Write a brief account of any book by Dickens that you have read. B. What qualities do you think a good novel ought to have? Write a composition or a short story on one of the following. C. Don't wear your heart on your sleeve. D. The man with the hand of iron but the heart of gold.